Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new week of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. As always, a huge thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in to today's show. Make sure to give us a late Christmas gift and click that subscribe, like, rate, whatever button wherever you are viewing or listening to today's show. It takes you about a second, and it means the world to me. You know, we're coming up to our 1-year anniversary of the show, and your support is what's driving the show. So it means the world to me. Just go ahead, click that subscribe button, and follow us all over social media at Media Row Pod. You can catch us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Definitely want to make sure you're following us on Twitter today, because not only are we covering the Drake women from afar as they tip off at noon in Chicago, but tonight is going to be a busy night for us. Because not only are we covering the huge Drake Illinois State game in the Knapp Center, and we'll have great post-game coverage for you with post-conference interviews with players and coaches, but we are going to be live on a fun pregame show called Buckets on Iowa Everywhere, hosted by Andrew Downs, my former boss at KXNO, and a great friend of the show, Jake Bren. Their show Buckets, that starts at 6:30. They're going to be on Iowa Everywhere live at the Knapp Center, and they're having me on the show at 7 o'clock. Can't wait. I love those two, and the show is very entertaining, especially for a college basketball sicko like myself. So this is a perfect show to jump on and hang out with those guys. So definitely don't want to miss that. We're going to be posting about it on social media, especially on Twitter. So make sure you're following us, is basically the point I want to get to. Follow us there so you can check out not only the great stuff that I believe in with Media Row, but also the other great local stuff. And, you know, what the stuff AD and Jake are doing live at the Knapp Center, it's great for Drake support and Drake fans. So really excited to hop on with them. Even if you're not wanting to, you know, get there at 6 o'clock with an 8 o'clock tip off, you know, to watch that Buckets show, or to see me at 7 o'clock. What you need to be doing, a must, regardless of what your plans are for the game, is your pregame needs to start over at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines at Kelly's Little Nipper. Proud sponsor of the show. You're going to taste great food and great drinks, but you're going to see the wonderful community Jeff has built there at Kelly's. And you walk in and everyone welcomes you with open arms. It's an amazing spot and perfect spot to go hang out here tonight before the Drake game. So get your butt over there to 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. So busy show. So busy that Megan and I just got back from our holiday break in Missouri, seeing her side of the family, which I hope each and every one of you had a relaxing, fun, and safe holiday break. Happy to have you back. But we just got back from Missouri to the point of, like, we parked the car and I didn't even unpack. I ran up here, turned on the light, and clicked record because we're ready to go. We have so much to get to. We have Illinois State at Drake that we're going to hit on. We're going to preview the Drake women against UIC. And then I'm going to touch on this whole Baylor NBA player story, because it's crazy to me. It's absolutely mind-boggling. So we are going to end today's show with that. But let's just jump right into it. Let's start with the biggest game tonight in the state, as a huge conference showdown tips off at 8 o'clock between the Drake Bulldogs and the Illinois State Redbirds. Illinois State 10-3, one of the top teams in the conference, a game behind Belmont, who's in first place. And then the Drake Bulldogs, of course, 7-6, that weird non-conference portion of the year, just an odd start under Coach Henderson. And we talked to him last Tuesday, and a wonderful interview, and really appreciate him coming on the show. So make sure to check that out after today if you want to catch, you know, some of the thought process behind what has transpired in the last few weeks and in the last month under Coach Henderson. But it's been an odd start for Drake. It's been the expected start for Illinois State. 10-3, they've won 9 of their last 10. They've won both Valley games easily by 7+ points. And all these reasons are why I picked them as my preseason favorite on the show a month or two ago. Because I believed in Ryan Pedon, who is in his 4th year at Illinois State, a former Ohio State assistant coach. He had 20+ wins last season with a team that was still trying to figure itself out. So I have a lot of confidence in what I saw from that Illinois State team, in March and, towards the end of February as well, where I just saw a lot of growth and I saw a lot of potential. And so that's what we're starting to see from Illinois State. Top 3 offense, top 3 defense, 5 players with 10+ points on average. The only surprises I have so far with the Redbirds and why we're seeing Belmont as the clear number 1 and the clear favorite moving forward is because this Illinois State team, we love Chase Walker on this show. If you listen to this show, I bring up Chase Walker, the big man for Illinois State constantly, where I believe he's the best big man in the Missouri Valley. I think, honestly, there were rumors last year in St. Louis when they got knocked out that he was going to transfer to Ohio State. He has that Big Ten potential, Big Ten talent. I thought it was going to happen. Happy he stayed in the Valley because it's awesome to see that talent stay here. But I have been surprised with how his year has begun. He's had spurts where, he is clearly the best player on the floor, but then at times it's kind of wavered. He's been inconsistent. He scored 7 or less in the last 3 in the last 5 games. And, I think we knew defenses were going to zero in on Walker, but I think the biggest surprise with this team is that when he struggles, it kind of wipes out all momentum for the team, even with Kingsinger, who's a great point guard for Illinois State, and even with Ty Pence, who's shown great improvement, and with the 2 other players that are scoring in double figures. It's tough to have a star player, and if they play bad, to have the whole team play well, because that's their number 1 strategy. I think, to me, it is just a little shocking with how drastic this team drops off and how much they truly need Walker to dominate. And then on top of that, I think I have been a little disappointed in the guard play from Kingsinger, because I think he's a really good point guard, one of the best in the conferences, but he's really struggled with turnovers. The whole team has. One of the more struggling turnover heavy teams we've seen in the conference so far through the first month of the year. And I think the whole team has struggled with rebounding, shooting threes, turnovers, and all that really favors Drake tonight, which is great news if you're a Bulldog fan. But that was all just my biggest surprises from this first month of the season for Illinois State, where now you're seeing when they do those way too early, Lenardi bracketology posts, you're seeing why Belmont is constantly the Valley favorite, because I think earlier, when I did the preseason prediction, I loved the veteran, the experience that Illinois State had. Walker was a huge reason I picked them. But Belmont, I picked as my second team. They were my 1A, 1B, like very close. But I did pick Illinois State over them because I was concerned about Belmont's ability to, last year and the last few years, they're very much a team that is live by the 3, die by the 3. And this year, they've improved on, their concerns from the last few years. And you're seeing more of a balanced attack from Belmont on both sides of the floor. While Illinois State, they seem like a team, in the last few weeks of the regular season, and definitely in St. Louis, where everyone who watches the Valley and reports on the Valley sits there and goes, this team's going to make some noise next year. And those concerns of being way too reliant on Chase Walker and, the turnovers are one of the biggest reasons I have concerns. those are all, you're sitting there going, what is happening to this team? And now it's kind of funny to say that when they sit with 10-3, a game behind Belmont, this is still a very talented team. Those were just some of the surprises in the first month from what we saw from Illinois State. Now for Drake, a quick recap because it has been a few days. 7-6 overall, 1-1 in the Valley. They had a gritty, ugly, whatever you want to call it, win against Evansville. I'm really excited because tonight's game, on paper, these two teams match up fairly well. Even though you see more balance in scoring from Illinois State, the field goal percentages are very similar. Drake's defense is a top 4 defense, while top 3 for Illinois State. Top offenses, I mean, these are two really, really strong offenses going at it. I'm really excited to see who takes on Jalen Quinn, the Missouri Valley leader in points per game, Drake's clear leader all around, a player who will get to play the full game because we saw him sit for the first half as punishment from Coach Henderson. And you can listen to all that from last Tuesday's show as to kind of the background behind why Jalen Quinn had to sit that first half. But you expect him to play a full half. And I'm excited to see who Illinois State's going to put on him because, of course, you think guard versus guard, point guard versus point guard. You're going to put Kingsinger versus Quinn. But the size differential, I mean, Kingsinger is not a tall guard by any means. I'm kind of expecting them to put Ty Pence, who Ty Pence has shown great growth. Last year, I mean, kind of forced a lot offensively, got shaken up, rattled. He was a sophomore. He was a younger player. You kind of expect that. In those last few weeks, like we keep mentioning as Illinois State for a whole, he did show great improvement. And that's why we're seeing him leading the team in points per game, which I didn't see coming in this first month. But we're also starting to see him take on those defensive challenges better. So I'm honestly thinking they might use his 6'6" size to battle the size of Jalen Quinn. So that could be interesting. Just the size matchup, how Pence has grown as a defender, as we're already seeing some great improvement offensively. But that's going to be the number one thing I'm excited to see before tip-off between these two teams. Other just concerns and other things to be excited for tonight's game before we move on is, number one, the biggest concern I have with Illinois State, or with Drake playing Illinois State, is just how many different ways Illinois State can beat you. Sure, they're not a great three-point shooting team. They're still a good three-point shooting team where you can't just not, worry about it. They still have some really strong shooters on this team. You do have to worry about Chase Walker, who is going to battle and kind of try to impose his will against whoever is the unfortunate soul having to guard him, if it's Federico, Goodberry, whoever it is. So they just have so many different weapons and so many different fashions they can beat you. They have a good mid-range game. Ty Pence is a good fadeaway shooter from about 12, 15 feet out. Kingsinger is a great ball screen, pick and roll point guard. I mean, you have to be when you have Chase Walker. They have 5 players averaging 10 points per game or more. The team shoots 50% from the field. And then just that experience. There's so much experience on this Illinois State squad that, of course, whenever you're previewing a Drake game, that's going to be a concern because of how we've seen the inconsistencies with this Bulldog team as they struggled to find and gel as a group because of that inexperience and the veteranship that they have. Another thing I'm really excited about with this Drake team, and a thing I'm looking at, is just how both teams turn over the ball too much. Drake averages about 9.5 turnovers per game. Illinois State, 10. That's going to be huge. Whoever wins the turnover battle is going to control the game, and that's been a huge deficit, a huge problem Drake has had throughout this month, is they have not been able to control games, especially at home. You hear Coach Henderson talk about it constantly of how they want to be the aggressor. They can't be the aggressor when they're turning over the ball. It does favor Drake a little, especially with that defensive intensity that Henderson wants to see from his team. And we're starting to see the team build up a little more. I would love to see them come out and have Quinn start guarding Kingsinger or Pence, whoever is bringing the ball up the court for the Redbirds. Love to start seeing him guard across half court, doing some full court press like we saw in that second half against Evansville, because I think that really turned the game around for Drake, especially when it started off as bad as it did for the Bulldogs. But the final thing that I want to hit on before we move to the Drake women is just, I've actually, despite all the inconsistencies and all the bad negative stuff we have brought up with this Drake team, one thing I've been very pleasantly surprised about is Drake's ability to play up in size. This Drake team all offseason, we were told about how big they're going to be and how versatile they're going to be. They haven't really imposed that size on anyone. They were taller than UAB and lost that game. They were taller than Robert Morris and lost that game. But they've been smaller than a few teams and really battled in those games. LSU was a bigger team than Drake. And sure, they lost the game. They lost the rebound battle, but showed a lot of great grit and toughness against LSU. You look, though, at Georgia Tech and the Murray State games. Those are the games to pay attention to, where they won both the rebound battle, they won the paint battle against some really tall competition. Murray State has, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like 6 or 7 guys over that 6'9" mark. That's a huge team that stretches the floor really well along with all of that. And Drake did a great job of out-rebounding them and controlling the paint throughout the game. It was just Murray State was able to hit more threes. And then the last game out, they had to go up against the best defending big man in the conference, in Connor Turnbull. They still won the points in the paint battle. And you have great play from your bigs, even against teams that are taller than them. Federico against Georgia Tech and against Murray State, those two games combined, he's averaging 18.5 points per game. Plus, you're getting great effort from the true freshman and Griffin Goodberry, who comes off the bench to fill in for Federico. His best games have been against way taller and bigger teams than him. Against LSU and Evansville, he played up to those opponents really well. So I've just been really impressed with how this Drake team is able to go up against size. It was a struggle we've seen with the DeVries and McCollum years, and that's one thing this Hendo team has done well, especially in these last handful of games. So those are kind of my surprises, the concerns, what I'm excited for tonight's game. It is going to be a battle. Drake needs to control this game. They have to get off to quicker starts, and the turnover game is going to be huge. Both teams really struggle holding on to the ball. Illinois State, a very talented team, very experienced team, and a team that just can beat you from every which way. So 10-3 Redbirds on the road against 7-6 Drake. That game on at 8 o'clock at the Knapp Center. We will be covering it live in the Knapp Center all over social media, and make sure to watch us on Buckets with Andrew Downs and Jake Bren on Iowa Everywhere at 7 o'clock as well. All right, let's jump in to the Drake women's game as the 2-9 Bulldogs take on 6-6 UIC. Both easily handle their Valley opponents to open the season, both winning by 17 plus points. Drake, of course, winning by 20 against Indiana State on the road. I'm going to start here. If you're a Drake Bulldog fan, forget about the non-con for the Drake women. Look at that Indiana State game. That is the Drake team I expect not to win by 20, but just a more cohesive unit. That is what I'm expecting in conference play. They had a really tough non-con. They had to go up against a top 4 Big East team in Creighton. They had to go up against some top 15 teams in Iowa State and Iowa, who we have seen just how good and talented they are. They had to go up against Minnesota the last time out, a team that, man, maybe wasn't given enough credit in the Big Ten preseason wise, because they are looking really good. But overall, forget about the non-con. Those are some really tough opponents. You're not going to be facing Iowa and Iowa State in the Valley. Look at that Indiana State game. Again, I want to reiterate this to make sure my point's clear. I'm not saying I'm expecting them to win every Valley game. I'm not saying I'm expecting them to win by 20 in every game. I'm just expecting that more cohesive unit, that Pullman style of basketball to really shine through in the Valley, like it has in basically every year she's been the head coach. This year it's a little more different because you are without those star players offensively. Alsma is fantastic. Knutson is great. Other than that, the depth issue, who's going to step up, it varies game to game, and that's an issue. But it's also an issue you see from UIC, which favors Drake today at noon, because UIC 2 players with 10-plus points, same with the Drake Bulldogs, where that depth, that's going to be the biggest key looking at this game. Whoever is able to get that third and fourth player, that role player to step up and hit a couple of shots. I thought Brooklyn Daly was fantastic in Indiana State. You get her to just knock down a 3 or 2 while staying out of foul trouble, because she plays with such physicality that I love it, but at times it's just too much where she has to sit because of the foul issues. That is going to be the key determining factor of who wins that game. Whoever is able to get that bench player, that role player, to step up and help out an Alsma or help out Knutson, that is going to be who wins this game. And Drake has their handful. I know you see the 6-6 record with UIC. Again, like with Drake, I'm honestly just looking at these Valley games because every team plays a tough non-con. So I'm kind of just blind, putting that behind me and seeing, all right, what they do against Valley opponents. And what we've seen them do, even against tough non-con opponents, is really buckle down on defense. The Flames may struggle offensively, but their defense is some of the best that we see in the Valley. Top 3 in opponents' field goal percentage. They are going to make Drake work for each and every shot. Drake, a team that has slowly started to find a rhythm, especially with Quinn, Taylor on those pick and rolls, and really making some nice key passes. The turnover game is going to be huge as well, because if they are turning over the ball, if they can't get any sort of open, clean looks, if they're struggling from 3, the Flames, all this benefits them with how strong and physical their defense is. So I think that's another concern going into today's game. And then lastly, this is the same story with the Drake men as it is the women, just the experience. Every team that are going to face the Bulldogs on the women's or men's side are more than likely going to have more experience. The Drake women lost so much last season, and we knew that going into this year. And Drake has 5 juniors and seniors combined. You have UIC with 9. So there's a lot of experience on that side of the floor. So it's going to be a battle. Every game is going to be huge for this Drake women's squad moving forward. It's all Valley play here on out. You don't have to worry about going to Terre Haute and then having to come home against a Big Ten opponent. Now it's just worry about the Valley opponents. And I do believe the biggest key to focus on today is the bench points, the role players. So noon for the Drake women, we will be covering that, of course, all over social media. And then 8 o'clock for the Drake men, a busy Monday. A welcome back from the holiday break for basketball fans and Drake fans as they get doubleheader action with the women and the men. Before we finish up today, I want to talk about this whole Baylor and James Nagy NBA mind-boggling situation. So if you aren't aware, you have James Nagy, who was a drafted NBA player. Now, he didn't sign a contract and has played overseas and played in a couple of summer league games, but never signed a contract where he is allowed to go and play for Baylor. He's going to start in the second half of the season. It's been reported all over the place. It is mind-boggling, and I think it's wrong. For the last 5 years, we've heard multiple reports of people saying this is the death of college sports as we know it. I never bought into it with the NIL, never bought into it with the transfer portal. I am kind of buying into it now with this whole James Nagy Baylor situation, which you have James Nagy, who was drafted in the 2023 NBA draft as a second round 31st pick, has been a part of NBA trades, has played in a couple of summer league games, has played overseas, technically never signed a contract, but was drafted and is coming to play at Baylor. Some people may say, why didn't you get this upset with Illinois grabbing players from overseas? And in my eyes, it's totally different. If the NBA wants to open their doors to allow high school kids to play and skip college like they already skip college to go play in the G League as an option, like you see overseas with 17-year-olds playing professionally, then go ahead and do it. But you can't have it both ways. You can't have players drafted into your league and then if they're not good enough, still be able to go play in college and take these roster spots. In my opinion, these are not the same scenarios. In my opinion, you get drafted, that should kill your eligibility in college. There's a reason we have the G League. If you're not good enough to play on an NBA team that you were drafted on, then you play for their G League team to develop. You don't develop your NBA players that you draft in college. I think this is opening a door that can't be closed, and I agree with what Tom Izzo says of it's shameful. I think it's shameful mostly on the NCAA for allowing this to happen, and I don't want to say it's the death of college basketball, but it is definitely going to change the entire college basketball landscape that we know and love today. So, wanted to finish up with a little bit of a college basketball rant because, again, I love the sport. I am a sicko for college basketball, and it just really struck a nerve. And please comment below whether you're viewing on YouTube or listening on Spotify. Comment on our Twitter page what you think about this, on if it should be allowed. Of maybe you disagree with my take, and that's fine too. But comment below your thoughts on this whole James Nagy and just the NCAA and NBA really, really going to damage a sport we love. So that will do it for today's show. Happy to have everyone back. My mind feels like butter right now with just getting, off a 5-hour car ride, and especially with the weather we had. But I'm happy to be back. Happy to record this show straight back from vacation and put out hopefully some really fun and entertaining content ahead of some really great Drake games here on Monday. As you have the Drake men tipping off at 8 o'clock, we'll be there live. And then, of course, the Drake women at noon against UIC. Make sure to check out Buckets with Andrew Downs and Jake Brent. I will be on there at 7 o'clock. We'll make sure to post it all over social media and have some fun at some great Drake games here today. We will see you on Wednesday for the next edition of the Media Row podcast.